My name is Nori Hilton, and I'm going to be talking about how I've used my own vulnerability, or my own insignificance, as a cushion for failure. At CSG, I've become a more open person. The most interesting part about this, in my opinion, is that as I changed, I could see and feel myself changing. The first night, after a dinner everyone told us would be awkward, I sat down in a bunk room just as unfamiliar as my own at that point. I settled in next to Jessica, a girl whose name did not yet feel familiar to my lips, whose story I had yet to read. A few people pulled out their stringed instruments and their singing voices, and a wave of slight anxiety brushed my feet. I've never felt like a musical person. The first few songs were foreign to me, and I turned to Jessica and we shared a panicky glance. Suddenly, as if the room itself had read our minds, the song switched. It was Riptide. It's that song you know all the words to, but you think is really cheesy, and maybe you've listened to it a few more times than you'd care to admit. No matter the song or its associations, we were all singing, strumming, or bobbing along. I opened my mouth and sang a few off-key notes and looked skittishly to my right. To my surprise, Jessica made eye contact and said genuinely, "You're so good at singing." And again, to my surprise, instead of brushing her off and disagreeing, I said thanks and kept going. I associate this moment with a new me, a CSG me, an open, confident, compliment-accepting person who I've continued to grow into, as well as my friendship with Jessica, which would continue to blossom through inside jokes, Spanish class, and our mutual love for mangoes. So, we have a lot of interesting conversations at CSG, which is to be expected. Placing 20 10th graders in one house for an entire semester makes for some good topics. I was once asked what my greatest fear was, and although the question was asked kind of jokingly, I want to make an attempt at answering it. When Kate handed out the packets to assign our personal manifestos, there was a quote on the first page. It read, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small doesn't serve the world." Marianne Williamson. As many of my peers can testify, my mantra often slips into nothing matters. I use it to comfort myself. I use my inherent insignificance to remind myself that I can only screw things up so much, that the damage I could do would never impact the world or the universe or anything that feels like it will last forever. This can be helpful when, for example, you forgot to do your Spanish homework. It's important to remember that this isn't the end of the world. However, this mindset can be restrictive. If nothing bad I will do will ever matter, how could anything good I do ever matter? With this logic, I have no power to change the world or even anything in my own life. I would argue that this is just not true. I have changed things before. Maybe they are insignificant, but that disproves this theory. I chose to apply to CSG, an experience that has changed me as a person and influenced the course of my life. I made this change. My dad showed me a TED Talk once about a man who created a company that made cards. They're just blank note cards that have the words "because I said I would" written at the bottom. The intention is that you write a goal or a promise on one of the cards and give it to someone to whom you trust or to whom it applies. It's like a contract between you and yourself, being held by someone who can keep you accountable. I like this idea because it points out specific things that you yourself have the power to change. Because the first step in creating change is believing that the change you desire is possible, plausible, and maybe even probable if you put in the effort necessary. The "because I said I would" cards are a reminder that although we may be small and even insignificant, we have power in our own lives, and this power is crucial to finding happiness. Changing your mindset superficially isn't enough. Eventually, you must find a convincing reason to put in the effort necessary to make these changes. It's easy to shrug things off and tell yourself that the only good they do is for you, and that that's not enough. But it is. Personal happiness isn't selfish or self-important. The happiness of individuals is crucial to the happiness of the greater population, and quite honestly, we could use as much happiness as we can get nowadays. There are so many negative things to focus on in our world that it is the most important to remember that happiness is always possible. Finding the balance between insignificance and importance is difficult. They're opposites, oxymoronic, but both are critical to having a sufficient yet not overwhelmingly large ego. I am in no way pretending that I have found this balance in my own life. I've only recently realized how the mindset of pure insignificance can be damaging. We took a personality quiz at the beginning of the semester that rated our characteristics and traits. It listed things like appreciation of beauty, self-restraint, and spirituality. It came as no surprise to me that my number one trait was humor. I value humor highly and am drawn to humorous people. To practice mindfulness, we were assigned to find a way to practice our number one trait every day and to record it. I had it easy. I decided to, every day, make at least one person laugh and laugh once myself. This was not a challenge. I have a great talent for making fun of myself and laughing at my own jokes. However, it did make me notice how I affected other people's moods. I'd say something stupid like one of my dad's classic jokes, I bought some batteries, but they weren't included, so I had to buy them again. People would look at me funny, and then they'd laugh. I'd see them walk away chuckling, and I known I'd done something good. This small change, this hint of humor, was something I had done. Change in our own lives may feel unimportant to the greater world, and it often is. But the change we make greatly affects our own lives. We need to strive to find the difference between important and necessary. I have struggled with the internal argument that some things I feel I should do are unnecessary because the only change they make is that they bring me happiness. I need to learn that happiness is a valid reason for doing something. For example, during expedition, I went backpacking for the first time. It was excellent. I felt free, open, and athletic. I had a brief discussion with Savannah about expedition. I asked her, why are we doing this? Why does it matter? She told me it was for the experience, and I think I rolled my eyes. I wasn't convinced. Once we got on trail, I started to feel the happiness tingling in my fingertips, and I wondered if this was what she meant. She says she goes backpacking for the sense of accomplishment, and I liked that. I walked past the trailhead on the way out, and I had changed my mind. This was a feeling I would like to experience again. Happiness is worth pursuing, and I can make the changes necessary to experience happiness more often in my life. So, the experiences I've had at CSG have convinced me of the importance of change. Change is often slow and feels pointless, but if you find ways to remind yourself that change is really possible, it helps the process. I also learned that happiness is worth pursuing. It's not just an unrealistic ideal set in our path by people of a simpler time. Happiness is not constant. It can't be, but it's possible, and it's important to remember to strive for it. These lessons have convinced me that I am important enough to make change and to need change. I've made new friends who have taught me to accept compliments, do things for the heck of it, and to be my best self. My mantra has changed from nothing matters to happiness matters, and with that, my mindset is somewhere new. I still hold on to the insignificance that kept me small, but there's some new hint of meaning now. My Spanish homework may not matter a lot, but when I tell Annie a joke about why I forgot, the way we laugh together matters. So I am insignificant. So I can't change the world in one fell swoop. What better reason to do everything I can to have fun while I'm still kicking around? Why not try new things? Because that little bit of happiness I might feel is real and significant. I told you that I used my own insignificance as a cushion for failure, an excuse to let myself go. Now I use it as an excuse to seek happiness, to try out someone else's passion and to trade it in for my own, to keep myself accountable and to hold myself responsible. Thank you.